The sun hung low over the plains of Arcadia, its light glinting off thousands of bronze shields. Dust rose from the earth as armies assembled, their formation stretching as far as the eye could see. This was not a war against Persia, not a defense of Hellas against an invader. No, it was Greeks against Greeks, brother against brother, city against city. And here, at Mantinea in 362 BC, the fate of Greece itself would be decided. Sparta, once the unchallenged master of the Greek world, stood ready with its unlikely ally Athens. Facing them was a coalition led by Thebes, a city that only decades earlier had lived in Sparta's shadow. Now, under the genius of Epaminondas, Thebes sought not just victory, but to strike the final blow that would end Sparta's power forever. The stage was set for one of antiquity's most dramatic and tragic battles. Less than half a century before, Sparta had stood supreme. After crushing Athens in the Peloponnesian War in 404 BC, the Spartans imposed their will on Greece with iron discipline. Their hoplites were feared, their kings respected, their names synonymous with martial excellence. But power breeds resentment. Sparta's harsh rule, its garrisons in other cities, its disregard for allies, all sowed seeds of rebellion. Slowly, one by one, city-states turned against them. Then came Thebes. Long considered second-rate, Thebes produced a man of rare brilliance, Epaminondas. At the Battle of Leuctra in 371 BC, he shattered the Spartan army, killing hundreds of its elite hoplites, including many from the vaunted Spartan citizen class. The myth of Spartan invincibility died that day, but Sparta was not yet destroyed. And so, in the summer of 362 BC, both sides gathered for a final reckoning. The plains near Mantinea filled with warriors. On one side, Sparta, Arcadian oligarchs, and their new ally Athens, old enemies united by desperation. On the other, Thebes, Arcadian Democrats, Argos, and other allies. The numbers were vast by Greek standards. Tens of thousands of hoplites, thousands of cavalry, countless light troops. The land groaned under the tramp of men and the snorting of horses. But more important than numbers was leadership. Sparta's commanders were cautious, bound by tradition. Epaminondas, by contrast, was a master of innovation, a man who had reinvented warfare itself. He had come to Mantinea not just to fight, but to finish what he had begun at Leuctra. Imagine the morning of the battle. The sky was bright, the air heavy with expectation. Lines of hoplites stood shield to shield, their bronze helmets gleaming. The ground trembled beneath the hooves of cavalry. Trumpets blared, commands echoed. Soldiers tightened grips on their spears, knowing that by nightfall many would lie dead upon the earth. In the Spartan camp, men prayed to their gods, invoking the memory of Thermopylae and Plataea. In the Theban camp, Epaminondas addressed his soldiers. He told them this was not merely another battle. It was the day Greece would change forever. Traditional Greek battles were fought with mirrored lines, phalanx against phalanx, strength against strength. But Epaminondas rejected tradition. At Leuctra, he had pioneered the oblique order, massing his best troops on one wing, stacking them 50 shields deep, while holding back the rest of the line. Instead of fighting evenly, he would smash one point of the enemy's line with overwhelming force. At Mantinea, he would do the same, but on an even grander scale. His plan was to crush the Spartan right wing before the Athenians on the other wing could react. To hide his intentions, he feigned hesitation, delaying the attack, then suddenly wheeled his phalanx forward in a daring maneuver. Dust rose, horns sounded, and the battlefield erupted. The opening was fierce. Cavalry on both sides thundered across the plain, lances splintering, horses screaming. Skirmishers loosed javelins and stones. The ground shook beneath the advance of thousands of hoplites. Then came the main clash, shield against shield, spear against spear. The din was deafening, the crack of bronze on wood, the cries of men locked in mortal combat. On the Theban left, Epaminondas led the sacred band and the elite of Boeotia. Their column, deep and heavy, smashed forward with irresistible momentum. Spartan hoplites, famed for their discipline, braced themselves, but the sheer weight of Theban numbers pressed them back. Step by step, the unthinkable began to happen. The Spartans, once the terror of Greece, were driven into retreat. Unlike many generals who commanded from the rear, Epaminondas fought in the front ranks. His tall figure could be seen amidst the press, urging his men forward, spear flashing, shield raised. He knew this was more than victory. This was destiny. Every thrust of his spear, every step gained, was one closer to erasing Spartan dominance forever. The Theban phalanx roared, pushing harder, breaking the enemy line. The Spartan right wing, the very heart of their army, began to crumble. For a moment, it seemed as if Greece itself was tilting toward a new age. And then, tragedy struck. In the chaos of battle, as Epaminondas drove his men deeper into the Spartan line, a spear thrust pierced his chest. The iron head sank deep, and he staggered, blood spilling across his armor. The sight sent shockwaves through the Theban ranks. Their leader, the man who had led them to glory, was falling. His companions rushed to shield him, fighting desperately to hold the line. The Spartan army was already collapsing, their right wing shattered, their allies faltering. The Thebans had won. But at what cost? Carried from the field, Epaminondas was pale, his breathing shallow. Around him, his officers gathered. News arrived. The Spartans were routed, the battle won. The great general asked only one question. Have we won the day? When told, yes, Thebes has triumphed, he closed his eyes. Then, with calm resolve, he ordered the spear left in his chest. To pull it out would mean instant death, but even so, he spoke with clarity. He urged his men to make peace, for Thebes had no one to replace him. Moments later, Epaminondas breathed his last. The battlefield belonged to Thebes. But Greece had lost something far greater. The Spartans never recovered. Once broken at Mantinea, their power dwindled, their name feared no longer. The glory of Sparta, forged at Thermopylae and Plataea, ended in the dust of Mantinea. And yet, Thebes could not claim lasting supremacy either. Without Epaminondas, the city lacked vision and unity. The dream of Theban dominance died with him. So the battle ended in paradox. Sparta defeated, Thebes victorious. But Greece as a whole left leaderless and exhausted. This vacuum would soon be filled by a rising power from the north, Macedonia. Within a generation, Philip II and his son Alexander the Great would march south, uniting Greece under their rule and launching it into a new era. Mantinea was more than a clash of armies. It was the end of an age. It marked the final act of the long struggle between the great city-states of Greece. From the Persian Wars to the Peloponnesian War, from Leuctra to Mantinea. The Greek world had been shaped by rivalry and civil strife. Now, that age was closing. Epaminondas' death was the turning of a page. With him fell not just a general, but an entire vision of Greece led by Thebes. Sparta's sun had set. Athens was a shadow of its former self. Thebes, victorious yet broken. And in the wings, Macedonia waited. Picture the field of Mantinea as dusk fell, the air thick with dust and the cries of the wounded. Spartans fleeing, Thebans victorious, but their general lying still upon a bier. His soldiers wept, not knowing whether to celebrate or mourn. The greatest tactical mind of Greece lay dead, but his legacy would live on, studied by generals for centuries to come. Victory had never felt so much like loss.